Raise your horns high and let your spirit flow. It's the classic metal wrap-up show. Feel the rush, let the loudness grow. It's the classic metal wrap-up show.
Well, so it's whoa, wait a minute. Who's that riding shotgun? Are you riding shotgun? No, you're riding
I'm riding.
shotgun.
I'm riding shotgun today. I went ahead and plugged in the microphone here in the NASCAR vehicle here at the track in Las Vegas, and my brother is going to go ahead and take me for a spin later. So I just thought we would, go ahead and shoot a segment here with Neely. So
boy,
he's well, I should go this way. Is it this way? He's more safety conscious than I am. He's got a helmet on. I'm riding bareback, as they say. I'm going in raw. So yeah.
Well, he's kind of quiet. There must not be any black people around.
He's focused on the road.
Oh,
he's trying to make sure we navigate the turns. This track is got a little embankment to it, a little gravity there. So I'm hanging on, but I'm a big guy, so I'm helping weighing down the car here while Brother Wendell, he navigates the wheel, works the throttle and everything.
Throttle. And you probably are going to have. I was going to say you're probably
he's concentrating.
You're going to have to use your foot because he's got little feet.
Yeah, well, I do have. They have on these vehicles here at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. They have a brake here on the passenger side, so I can work the brake in case he gets a little heavy with the little feet and he can't.
Little feet.
Something starts getting a little throttle heavy or a little too light. Even I can probably help him out here, but. He's, as you can see, he's concentrating. He's got the road right now. So.
And we're talking little feet, like as in FEET, not FEAT, like the band.
Yeah, I mean, I believe recently, what my son's only 12, and he loaned some shoes to Neely for this trip out to Vegas.
Yeah,
so it's about the
he probably wears like a women's size 6, probably.
Don't
not your son, Neely.
No, I'm saying either way, if Neely especially, don't mention anything like that. That would, any questioning of his masculinity or that might make him slow down. Right. We don't want him to.
Yeah, right.
Just stay on the throttle there, Wendell. Stay on the throttle. So.
And I'm guessing busy week.
Busy week. Time has just been flying. He wanted me to let you know that time has just been flying by. And he's been busy, outside Chicago selling containers. He didn't say he can't hear me right now. He's got the ear things in the
right
while he's with the helmet. So, but I believe he said earlier that the club has been helping him. His truck hasn't been stolen. It's been safe in the parking lot, and no kinds of shenanigans have taken place. So that's good news.
Right. Well, I'm glad he's using it. I mean, it was delivered right to his doorstep.
Well, some things, he'd like to keep in private behind the scenes, so to speak. So, but yes, I believe the truck is secure at the work facility. It's been a busy week, so time has just flown by. But we're coming up here towards the weekend, and he'll be back to his usual 6 hours of radio extravaganza, as they say. So.
And he's going to go urban 4x4.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, and he lives in Indiana. He just drives into the city, so I'm sure Indiana has some back roads that he'll be taking the pickup truck on here. Hold on, so Well, there might be some footage or that I might be able to get him to supply some of that to his brother here shortly. But since the last time we spoke to all of you out there, the wrap up show has heard some terribly sad news, and we're a little bit behind the 8 ball on this recording, but that's because we've been busy the last few weeks, which we'll talk about here shortly. But I believe someone you have interviewed before, Ruben, Chris Hager.
And I forget when it was, but he was in. Well, he's had history with Piercy. He helped with the early formation of Mickey Rat, which evolved eventually to Rat. But Hager, I met him back. Oh gosh, it must have been, was it 2010, 11, or 12? I mean, it was in that area, but they performed in Portland. I think it was the last time Piercy performed in Portland, but I managed to catch up with Chris, who I'd been in contact with just about doing some kind of interview type stuff because huge Rough Cut fan. I was a fan of that band, um,
Mhm.
and so I wound up just hanging out and chatting with him prior and after that particular gig. And I did eventually interview him, and we've just kind of kept in touch over time. And I must have done, I forget how many, probably four, five interviews. In fact, I had texted him back in February about doing something because I had done a interview with Paul Shortino, who's the singer of Rough Cut, and the debut album's 40th anniversaries this year. So I was like, well, I'll get Shortino, hit up Chris, and then hit up
Mhm.
their drummer Dave Alford, and do something individually. Because it'd be just kind of fun to kind of hear their stories on the making of the album and whatever came up. But Chris at that time in February said, "Yeah, I got some stuff going on, and I'll get back in touch with you in like a couple weeks." And then I think his mom was passed in April, I believe. April, March, April. Yeah, I think it was April. And and I didn't follow up because I'm like, Eesh, this guy's got a lot of stuff going on at the
Going
moment.
on. Yeah.
And the Shortino thing went online, so I was like, I should reach out to him again. And then, I mean, the news um, uh, spread that he had passed, which was a shock. Uh, but I did get a chance. We really hit it off. No, seriously, he was a nice guy. Overall, nice guy. Always
Yeah.
good with the fans. And I saw that firsthand on a couple occasions. I mean, one was when he was with Piercy and they performed in Portland. And then the other time was when it was 2000, I think it was 2019. They reformed Rough Cut and they did a couple of shows, one in Portland, and that was with the new lineup. And it was mostly because of the fact that Chris actually, I was always wondered that, and I did ask him, I go, why Portland of all places? Yeah, but Jeff, the bass player, actually grew up in the Dalles, like
Oh.
5 miles from where I'm at right now. And
Mhm.
I'd gotten to know him over time. So, he'd always performed in Portland in various different cover bands and original bands and stuff. So he was the bass player. So uh, even more interesting for me. And then they got the former singer of Sarge, which was one of the other bands that I had followed that Hagar was in, and they got that singer involved. And so it was a good lineup. That show in Portland in 19 was actually sold out, and they were supporting LA Guns. So it was a good show.
Yeah.
Like I said, again, caught up with him before and after, and just really pleasant dude. And it's really sad that he passed. Sounds like he had some surgeries and whatnot, to repair something in his shoulder or something like that. But who knows? I mean, even at 67, I think that was his age. I mean, that's still relatively young by today's standards. So it's really sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For
So
sure. For
really
sure.
nice dude. And yeah, it was one of those things where it was like, dang, I mean,
Hmm.
hopefully it wasn't anything, you know, as we always think of with musicians, some of the tragedies that have occurred and stuff like that. But who knows? I mean, maybe he was just really sad because his mom passed. I mean, I can totally see that as well.
Could be. I've never met the man, never even spoke to him, but I was familiar with him. I'd watched videos,
Hmm.
obviously, of him performing in Piercy's band over the years,
Right.
and was aware from that what his history was. I believe he had Mickey Rat and then
Hmm.
Sarge and
Right.
then Rough Cut,
Rough
correct?
cut.
So,
Right.
yeah. So, but yeah, that's just it's never good news when someone passes. If they're
Right.
like 75 plus, I feel like they got
Sure.
a good run. If they're under
Right.
75, you always feel like they probably got short a few years.
Sure.
So,
Right.
but last time I think I saw some video was him playing something with Piercy at the Rainbow. Was that what it
Hmm.
was? They have that
Right.
every spring. They have a concert outdoors there, and he was performing with Piercy's band on that video I was watching. That was just a couple of months ago, but
Yeah.
when you get above 60, 65, things can happen, and so who
Sure.
knows? It could be natural, it could be something else. But let's just hope for him and for his family, rest in peace. Hopefully, it was something like going in your sleep or something easy,
Right.
right? That's what we're all hoping for, at least.
Right.
So, but yeah, it happens, man.
Right. And just a quick side note, Dave Alford, the drummer, has actually reformed his own version of Rough Cut. So he was
Well, I was going to
actually,
ask how
yeah.
many versions have been out there
Well, there's
because I
been
believe when I
three.
was
There's been three. So
that
there
was my
was
question.
yeah.
Okay,
Well,
because I was
actually four now. Four.
okay because I believe when I was watching a recent thing where Jason Green was
Hmm.
talking to Matt Thorne about this,
Right.
that there sounded like there was a Hagar
Hmm.
version of Rough Cut, and
Right.
maybe at one point an Alford version of
Yep.
Rough Cut, and then maybe him and Shortino at somebody
Right.
other was doing something
Right.
else
So,
at some point.
so there was the original version, which is all the classic lineup, right? And then after that,
Hmm.
then there was the rough cut that Hagar put together with Steven, the singer from Sarge, and the bass player from Portland, Alfred,
Hmm.
and um, oh, who was the other guitar player? Shoot, his name is escaping me right now, but he's performed with
Is that
Jizzy
the guy
Pearl and
that
Love
said?
Hate. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I don't know who that is.
It'll come to me. But then there's that
Okay.
version, and then what happened was then Shortino, Amir, the other guitar player, and Sean McNabb,
Okay.
and Carlos Cavazo. Actually,
Vazo. There
yeah,
you go. Yeah.
I think they had their own version of Rough Cut.
Wasn't that a Rough Riot?
Yeah,
Was
rough.
that, or is that
Well,
different?
and
Okay.
then they actually put out
That
music as
more.
Rough Cut
Okay.
after that.
Gotcha.
When the other
Okay.
Rough
Got it.
Cut
Not, yeah.
disbanded, and
Okay.
then now you have Dave Alford's Rough Cut, and that's the name of the band. I mean, I don't think he can go out as Rough Cut. And that's
Okay.
just
Gotcha.
the drummer. So it's almost kind of like similar to what's happened with like Foghat, right? You have Foghat
Yeah.
out there,
Yeah.
and there's actually a
Or
good
L.A. Guns.
Rally Guns, yeah. But
Yeah.
there's been, I mean, I guess if they can pull off the music, I've seen some clips. It sounds interesting. I mean, I'd see it if it came by. Why not? I mean, I'm a fan of the music. It
It
obviously
seems
it'll be different.
strange,
Yeah.
but Evil is always a supporter of artists. If they can't work with each other and they want to go do something on their own, I'm the
Hmm.
kind of guy that'd probably go check out whatever it is they're doing, good or bad, just to go check
Right.
it out. So, but yes, it did sound to me from what Matt Thorne was saying that it was sounded a little complicated to me,
Yeah.
and I was only familiar from them probably back in those days on the first or second album with some Dio support. I think is where I first heard of the band being on tour with Dio
Well,
or
I think
something.
I'm
So
gonna put together my version of Matt Thorne's Rough Cut.
there you go. Yes, with Ruben on
And I'll
vocals.
have you play bass. So there you go.
Well, I'll play
And
bass, and
Matt
I
won't
think that
even
I
be
can.
in the
I
band.
think I think I can get the drummer for Steel Piston. So I think we
Oh,
could have a.
well, there
I
you
think we can have a
go.
band. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we'll
I
hit him
mean,
up.
and
So
then and then if we get stiffed on any of the money, we can send
well,
the muscle out to
exactly. Yeah,
collect.
you send the Neely brothers in there to collect. Yeah, we're
Yeah.
gonna make sure we'll take care of business. So he's the wheel man. I might have to go in there and make the moves to collect the cash, so to
Right.
speak. So,
There you
but I
go.
have I have confidence that he can get us out of here in a quick speed.
Oh, I'm sure.
He's got the skills. I mean, he's
He's fast and
there's like
furious.
it's like Mario Andretti and then Dale Earnhardt and then Wendell Neely. That's it. So he's like.
Yeah.
Well, that's rest in peace, Chris
Yeah.
Hagar. And sad to hear that we're all getting older. Those guys that are at the kind of senior top of the
Hmm.
80s or early 80s bands and stuff definitely have to be,
And
they're all
and
getting
then
up there.
and then you're like, why couldn't it have been Nikki Sick? I mean, did I say that out loud? you
Well,
know,
Frankie takes care of himself pretty well. The heroin must have, made him
Which it's
immortal or
funny
something.
you bring
So
that up because busy week, I got a chance to chat with Tom
busy.
Werman early in the week, and
Ooh,
and that
okay,
was
okay.
one of the things that came up about his memory, and
Which
Not
don't be
not
shy. Plug where that can be heard or where they
well,
can
it's
find
not
that.
online yet, but we'll
Oh,
get that. We'll
gotcha.
get that online.
So
But
pew
yeah,
pew
that
pew pew pew
pew pew
pew.
pew
Breaking
pew,
news.
and all
Ruben
and
talked to
all.
Tom Werman.
Yeah, but nice guy, nice guy. I mean, he's super. And I don't know if you've heard clips of him or anything. It's exactly what you're
Yeah,
hearing.
I've listened to
Super
a little
nice
bit.
guy,
Yeah,
really
yeah.
pleasant. And
Hmm.
we really hit it off. He actually said, "Hey, let's do this again." So there you go.
Yeah,
Can we
cool.
call him a friend now?
I think if you have
I mean,
contact like that and you're in
I
deep
mean,
conversation, then you must be friends.
I
At least
guess
by CMS terms. By
CMS
CMS
terms,
terms, you're
right?
yes, yes.
Um, which I have the little red foamy thing on here for a reason because that goes
Oh yeah.
back to somebody else that's a friend, but that's a
Hmm.
precursor to something for Sunday. Um,
Yes.
but anyways, that was one of the things that came up with Werman. I was like, I asked him. I forget how I asked him, but basically, it's like, Nicky's got for the uh, for an addict, he just had a fantastic memory, and he had a chuckle about that. And
Yeah.
he said, I think his
Flimsy.
exact words was because he made it up. So there you go.
Yeah. So yeah, obviously, if you've read any of what he wrote, then he's claiming he was taking notes in a notebook, a scratch pad
As
over
he was
here, taking notes.
throwing up
Yeah,
and
he was
shitting in a bag in the
passing
closet.
out, yeah, and waking up and running around the neighborhood naked and all
Right,
these things. He stopped the paramedics and said, "Hold on, let me jot this down, the date and time here. I
right.
OD'd and
Yeah,
Van Nuys at." So who knows, man? But Werman, he seemed like a you got to give them credit. You just can't really argue with the amount
right.
of records sold. I mean, that's what it boils
No,
down to. You look at the artists and the records he worked with, they're usually their biggest or some of their biggest records. So
yeah,
the man clearly was doing something right. And I think sometimes this is just an opinion, but sometimes I think that producers, engineers, these people behind the scenes, managers don't get all the credit they probably really deserve for how the not only the artists say if as a manager their career trajectory, but as a producer, their ability to get the best out of the band, maybe guide them towards the best
mhm,
songs and arrangements, and maybe some things that the band would have done that wouldn't have sounded so stellar. And these guys don't get credit for that. Someone who's not high on cocaine or Jack Daniels or whatever has to make a decision, and it usually probably has to be on in those days, a budget from a real record company.
right.
So someone's expecting results when they're paying thousands of dollars. So
Yeah, and I
yeah.
did ask him the other thing too. I mean, asked him who was the most difficult person he had worked with, or
Mhm.
challenging. I think it was the word. And I thought I one of two people. I don't know if you want to take a guess at what what the two people that I was
Ooh.
thinking. I think
I'm
you
gonna
could.
say Did he work with D. Snyder
Yeah,
and
he worked
Twisted
with D.
Sister?
Snyder. Yeah.
That
So you're
would
saying
seems
D.
like it would
Snyder?
be a D. Snyder. I don't think you would say Nikki was that difficult to work
No, it
with.
wasn't Nikki
I'm gonna
either.
go D. Snyder or
Yeah.
and he did he do early the work on some? He worked on Dawkins, but then stepped away, right?
Yeah. And I
Kind of had
initially,
like a.
when I asked him that,
So I'd
I
have to
was
ask that
thinking,
question. Was that a difficult situation? Why'd you step
yeah.
away?
Well,
So yeah,
yeah, I mean, that didn't come up just because I want to avoid Doc and
yeah,
intentionally. Now, if he brought it up, I'd have to not
yeah.
disregard the that
But those are the
information.
two I could think of. Like, clearly he was working on something and then handed it over. I believe the album went to Michael Wagner or something. There was something that went on
Yeah,
there
yeah,
with
yeah. It was
the
my,
the way. So
or was it? No,
um,
he never did. Roy Thomas
he might
Baker
have
was
came in and tried to do something. I think on the same.
right,
There's an album that has two or three producers, which
right.
for me as a guy reading
Yeah,
this
that's
thing
kind of
back in. Well, that's weird. Who have these? All these guys are got a hand in this. Who did
right.
what? But I'm gonna say I think because I've always and this is the kind of question I would ask him is how do you work with a band that has the guy that sings and writes all the music and lyrics, but from what I can tell, plays no instrument.
Right.
I've never heard of any band like that, to be quite frank
Like
with you.
Ozzy. I mean, Ozzy, I mean,
Yeah, but I mean, even
but
Ozzy though, wouldn't he have Bob and them come up with a
sure.
riff, right? I
Right.
mean, someone's starting the song the seed that starts the song is
Well,
usually a riff on the guitar or a piano
oh,
or got some chords or at least a vocal melody or something. But it seems I've never heard of a band strictly writing their music all around a vocal melody with no input from the musicians. And from what I can read and understand of Twisted Sister, at least on the credits, it says D. Snyder. So
and that is strange. And I
yeah,
have chatted with JJ French a couple times. I'm gonna try to dig up the audio because
yeah,
I always found it. I never did ask him this because I don't know how to do it in a non-offensive way.
yeah.
How do you have a guy come into your band and basically commandeer the fucking thing, right? Because that's what happened. D was kind of like the guy that came in as vocalist. The next thing you know, he's taken over the fucking band. Um,
Yeah, and I, to some degree, at some level, as a front man, I can understand how they would secede some power and some, okay, he has the ideas for the choruses and the vocals, the words, and this. I mean, there's obviously that's a very important ingredient if he's doing all that. It never credited any of them really, I don't think, anywhere with writing a riff or anything. And then that made me wonder, like, I mean, now looking from what I know now, it seems like JJ French was busy with the management and the
mhm.
X's and O's and the
Right.
money and the merchandise and this. And so I kind of get that was his role. But you would think like that guy Eddie would down the lead guitar would have
Right.
said, "Hey, I got a riff, and if I wrote this riff and
Hmm.
then D writes the words, we co-wrote the song." So it would say Eddie Fingers Ojeda on the credits. I never saw that, right? So I was like,
Well,
I've never seen a band where just one guy who's not at all on any instruments that I can tell. And then when I listen to interviews, he says himself he can't play a lick of an instrument. How is he writing the music?
right. And if you listen to, and I know this because I did chat. I mean, one of the times that I spoke with D, well, was that first or second? Anyways, when I chatted with D, that was around the Stay Hungry, I think 30th anniversary. They were doing this thing, and I was told just talk about the reissue, and I actually didn't stick to that. I started throwing questions about Love Is for Suckers. He goes, "Oh, so you want to talk about that, huh?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he goes, "All right, we'll talk about that." So he did, but Love Is for Suckers is a lot better record than most people give it credit for.
Give it
And what's
credit for.
interesting
Yeah,
about that, it was supposed to be a solo record, and that's
that's what I
basically
read. Yeah.
just Atlantic guys. I mean, it's basically Reb Beach. It's got Steve Whiteman from Kicks singing backgrounds on that. Um, Joe Franco, who's the newer drummer at that point. I forget who's playing
Mhm.
bass, but it was credited as a Twisted record. But none of those guys. I mean, you can hear on there that it's not JJ French or Eddie
Eddie doing the
playing
solos.
guitar.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's just not them. And you can hear Steve Whiteman's background vocals, maybe even Kip Winger in there. I mean,
Hmm.
it's a pretty
Interesting.
good record for what it is. It's just really slick.
Yeah. Well, I can honestly say I'm maybe going back. I've heard a song or two, but at the time, after Under the Blade and whatever else, one or two records, I heard of them, and then it just
Hmm.
seemed like in my sphere of music, I was off them, and they disappeared, and I moved on, and
Right.
the next year is 1987, and I hear about Appetite for Destruction or whatever happened.
Right.
So I was like,
Right.
you move on to the next thing. But in those
Sure.
days, they didn't have like a if you imagine this, kids, they didn't have an internet where you could just go dredge up some album you thought of that you hadn't heard in 10. You either had to have the cassette or the record or whatever, or you couldn't hear it. I mean, it was
Hmm.
you stuck to what you had or you
Right.
had access to from someone else in those days. There was really no way. So once a band was out of your sphere, as far as that, if you went into my area, say Tower Records, and it wasn't at the front of the thing with the displays in front of you, you kind of like, I mean, you might dig around a little bit in there, but
Hmm.
I don't know. It was just a different age. Things were not so accessible. You had to really seek out what you wanted to find musically. And then once you got a cassette or something, you spun the shit out of it until the fucking thing busted. So,
Right.
but yeah, so interesting times. But Tom Werman did do a lot of cool stuff. And so
Right.
I would just think that, um,
Yeah.
I'm
And
trying to think
the
of other difficult personalities he had to massage, but to step out of the Dawkins
Oh yeah, that's
situation,
right. We
clearly
didn't
some,
say who that
yeah,
was.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
it
yeah,
was
yeah.
it was actually a member of Kicks, believe it or not. It was the
Oh,
bass player.
Okay. Yeah, and he wrote a lot of their
He
music
wrote
too,
a lot
right?
of their songs, and then he got ousted from the
Ousted.
band,
Yeah.
and they I mean, I think they only put out one record after that, but that one's pretty good, with the newer lineup. But yeah, I guess he was pretty difficult. He seemed like he couldn't
Yeah.
please the guy, and it was just a real what would we say? Like he sucked the energy out of everybody. It sounded like so.
Yeah, some people are that way, and some personalities are that way. Some people start out fine, and then as
Hmm.
time goes on, and sometimes it's just personality driven. Sometimes it's alcohol or narcotics abuse, and
Right.
it drives them into becoming something that other band members don't want to deal with. But
Hmm.
Kix is another band where I remember like the MTV hits that I would see on the videos, but being from the
Yeah.
West Coast, because they're from the East Coast, I don't
Right.
feel like I can remember a lot of tours where it was
Yeah,
like,
I
oh,
think they
Kix is
only played
opening.
once in Portland, I think. And that was on the Blow My Fuse. But I think with those records, I think that Blow My Fuse, I think anything leading up to that was kind of sappy. But I think Blow My
Mhm.
Fuse, Hot Wire, so those are the two back-to-back records. And then On with the Show. Those are the three that I really enjoy. On with the Show
I'll
is
have
the
to
most
check those out
recent. I
more.
forget how old that is. It's probably already 15 years old, for at least a decade old, I think, at this point. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, I mean, those are the three records. I think if you're wanting to check out Kicks, those are the ones to pick up or check out.
Yeah. Yeah, whatever I heard back in the day, I always enjoyed it. And then it just, again, like I said, always was one of those things. I think, when you're regional that way, there's some bands you can have easy access to and you see because they're playing around your area all the time. And there's
Hmm.
some bands it seems like they just never come out here, or if they do, they go to LA and San Francisco, and I didn't happen to be in those places when they were there or whatever. So,
Right.
when you're from NorCal, a band like Tesla plays
Hmm.
all their first shows on every tour, usually a secret gig somewhere to warm up at some place or something going on. So, a band like Kix being, I guess, were they from Maryland or something or East
Yeah.
Coast? So,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
So,
Maryland.
I'm sure the people there were the ones who got to have
Right.
access to all the cool Kick shows a guy like me can never see. So,
Hmm.
but from what the videos I see on YouTube nowadays, I look back and go, man, they were a high energy band. That would have been cool.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I think at the end, because they were kind of like Faster Pussycat. They were always on the cruises, and the
mhm.
last time that I went was when they were wrapping up. And at that point, I think a lot, and I like Steve Whiteman again. It's like he maintained his singing abilities till the end, really. But I think a lot of his cheesy in between songs thing was really, really cringy at the tail end.
Yeah.
It was just not good, and
I
that took
think I
away
saw a
from
little
the
bit of that at,
performance.
at an M3 performance that I
Yeah,
was watching one time on YouTube. And I remember thinking, yeah, some of this is like, what's he talking about?
yeah. I
So,
think I think once if you were to tally up all the in between song type bullshit, I think it's like, man, you could have snuck in another song. And it
yeah,
would have
yeah,
been
yeah.
better received, I think. But I mean, I think at that point, all the people that are shit faced, they're kind of, they're pretty forgiving, I guess. You
They
know,
don't probably even notice.
yeah,
Oh, look at this Steve Wyman. He's
right,
talking to me.
yeah,
Yeah. So if you're 3 beers in or more, yeah, notice something like that. You're just too busy
yeah.
having a good time. Well, that's interesting. So Tom Werman, so that will be coming up. Is that coming up for
Mm.
your podcast, or you did that for a
Yeah, that's going to be
particular?
on there. I think I'm trying to get some content. We haven't even gotten the Ron Keel thing of the 40th of the Right to Rock, and that one's pretty good. I mean, I think Andrew sometimes has made references to Ron Keel, the car salesman, because he's trying to sell you
Mhm.
everything. But
Yeah, yeah.
and I get it. I mean, but he's done it and been able to make a living independently anymore. I mean, anything he puts
That's
out as a content is all going in his
so
pocket.
you got to give the guy a
Mhm.
tip of the cap for being a worker, and that's
Right.
and people think it's just so easy, and it's not. It's a music business. There's a business to end to it, and so a guy like
Right.
that has to hustle between shows and products and this and appearances in any way he can get any. I mean, that's just the way it is. So
Hmm.
I don't blame him.
No,
Respect. He's out
and
making a living doing it.
he has put out some good stuff. I mean, I think that last it was called Keel World, and Chris and Neely had him on there because, I think that, I mean, he's basically putting their show on his platform. It's
Okay.
streaming on there along with Charlie Kendall, who, but uh, but that record that he put out, Keel World, has some. Oh man, it's got some of his best shit ever. Like there are like good 4 songs on there that really are good. I mean that makes it worth owning the record. But um, yeah, I mean, nice enough guy, and always nice to the fans. And again, he's one of those guys that I met firsthand. It was a Headbangers Con in 2018 in Portland, and he was one of the guys that was there, and super nice guy. I mean, again, one of those guys that what you see on in these interviews is what you get firsthand. He's not one of those bitter guys that's like, oh, I'm having to do a signing and fuck you guys, and just super nice guy.
Yeah, and another artist who I heard of because of, well, I was a Kiss fan. So when Gene Simmons was associated with what they were doing, then I was like, he's got this record label, he's trying to do these
Right.
different bands. What's going on over here?
Mm-hmm.
But I was going to say also, I haven't really caught much of his podcasts or shows or what he's doing, but when he was at that place, who's the lone guy?
The dollar loan. What's his name?
He
I know
had
who you're
a
talking
show
about.
at his radio thing for a while that
Right.
you could get
Charlie
shows
Kendall.
via
Charlie Kendall's dollar loan. No, what? I'll have to
yeah,
look
whatever.
him up. Let me see.
It is
Chuck
Charlie
Brennan.
Chuck
Brennan.
Chuck Brennan. There
Yeah,
you
that's
go.
what it was.
There you go. So when
Because that's the
Dawkins
guy where they shot that terrible Dawkins performance.
yeah, and he had a radio thing there,
Yeah.
and he had Ron doing a show or quite a bit of whatever on that thing, and then I was able to find that via YouTube or whatever. So I
Right.
watched some Ron Keel radio shows or listen to them, which tends to be my MO. I'm the kind of person that listens to things while I'm doing shit. I'm always driving, doing shit around the house, whatever. I just put shit on in the background. I'm not necessarily, I don't always watch as much as I listen. So, but that's just me. And so I remember back then, but then when that place closed down, I think, again, it's one of those things where, you just kind of lose the channel was shut
Right.
down. There was no more dollar place and the gig was canceled. So
Yeah, that's
he
kind of
moved on to things.
what Aiken hopes happens to Sirius, but it's just not happening.
That's what Aiken hopes, or possibly hopes happens to the wrap up show. It just goes away.
It
No
just
one
goes
finds it
away.
again.
Yeah, that's funny.
Hey, just keep driving, Neely.
Just keep driving.
Don't worry about what we're doing over here on the radio.
Those are not minorities crossing the road, Neely.
Just keep your hand on the wheel and your foot on the gas, my friend. And if we get too close to your work, you speed up. We don't want to hit any lights in that
Right.
neighborhood. Apparently.
No kidding. Oh my God, you want to avoid a shootout?
Yeah.
Raise your horns high.